welcome to the Themed Entertainment Association Western Division's Celebrate Black History Month event. My name is Sarah Beals Sager, and I am a career coach in the themed entertainment industry with a master's in anthropology and a master's in library science. I am currently located in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Now, before we meet our lovely panel of speakers, I'd like to set the tone for this year. Black History Month is a 54-year tradition originating in the United States. This was in order to shine a spotlight on the achievements of Black people who often did not get their credit for their contributions to history. Black History Month, however, is not just about the past. It sets the foundation for the future by providing role models not just for Black children, but for all people who are inspired by these great accomplishments. The conversation tonight will further that tradition by exploring how Black history contributes to a brighter future for us all, especially in themed entertainment. The panel will explore growth and leadership and how we can empower the next generation of storytellers. So while we'll be diving into the past this evening, we will also be using it as a springboard into the future. Shout out to Jeff Crocker for organizing this event, and let's bring out our beautiful panel, starting with Coffee Polk. Coffee, would you like to introduce yourself?
I have a bachelor's degree in film photography and visual art. I worked in special effects, props, and model making in Los Angeles in the film industry prior to getting sick of trying to find a new job every 3 months and going back to school for architecture. So I have a master's in architecture. And I've kind of been in the world of themed entertainment, resort hospitality, and anything else weird since then. So that's me, and I think I have to hand it off to Matthew next.
Sure, I'll go. And it makes sense because Coffee and I work together at Cunningham. My name is Matthew Trotter. I am a project architect and project designer at Cunningham. We work in our play group as well as several of our other studios. We have studios kind of broken up from play and heal and live and all of the types of things that people do and how they use facilities. So I think that's pretty cool. I've done a lot of work with many major players from Universal to Disneyland, done work in theme park design for about 7 years, and now recently have kind of also working on schools and different community centers and things like that. I'm the president-elect of the Southern California chapter of National Organization of Minority Architects, and it is a pleasure to be with you all here today.
Erika, would you like to go next?
Hi, I'm Erika Ewing, and I currently am the Director of Interactive Ventures at Lionsgate. And what I get to do is pretty much work with all the Lionsgate IP and then some, and that's across all forms of physical and digital entertainment, pinball machines, metaverse, PC console crossovers, in the video games. I hold a Master of Fine Arts from the American Film Institute in producing, and I come from Seattle, Washington, and I previously worked with G4 TV on X-Play, was at Ghost House Pictures working with Sam Raimi on his production team, and I also was a Fragdoll cadet with Ubisoft, representing as an advocate for women across gaming.
And that leaves Veronica. Hello, Veronica.
Hello, everybody. I'm Veronica Horton. I'm a senior operations manager for the parades operations at the Disneyland Resort. I've been with the company for over 27 years throughout various entertainment offerings through the Disney Live Entertainment and operations. I started off as a theatrical stage manager, so I did get my Bachelor's of Arts and Theater, and then my MFA in stage management. And then as I went into leadership, I went back and I received my MBA in business management. So I am a true a theme park operations leader, and very happy to be here. Oh, and I'm also a co-chair of our Black Business Employee Resource Group. So I do support a lot of our Black initiatives that we have within across all of the resort. Thank you.
Magnificent. Okay, so just to get it started, I'd like to go around and just who were some of your heroes growing up? Who led you to themed entertainment? Who would like to start?
I did not have a path of theme park entertainment. I was a fan of a lot of the law shows growing up in the Midwest. So you think of like LA Law, and there's a particular handsome black actor that I was like, I'm going to go to LA and meet him. There's a year's difference, but I pursued going into law school, moved to California to go to Loyola Marymount, thinking I was going to go to Loyola Law School, and then realized politics and legally language was not my forte, but I did a lot of theater. And so I look at being a person of a woman at the time, being a woman and a Black woman was a rarity in the stage management technical piece. And so I relied a lot on the creative leaders and the creative designers because that was what I saw. So I saw a lot of creativity in the costume designs and the brilliant actors and actresses that put things on the stage, and I relied a lot of them and wanted to continue to pursue the technical side. So in many ways, I was the person kind of setting the stage and being the role model. And so I look today to really enforce that into the future Black women leaders that want to go into the technical side. So that's kind of my weird story of getting into entertainment.
I love it. How about you, Matthew?
I stumbled into the themed entertainment industry. I always wanted to be an architect, and it's not that architects don't do that work. I just didn't realize they did. And it's kind of like I didn't really think about it, right? And so my hero was Paul R. Williams. He's a very famous Black architect in Los Angeles. If you've ever flown into LAX and seen the theme building, which is kind of the restaurant, that kind of alien looking thing, that's Paul R. Williams. He also did a lot of work with Hollywood celebrity homes. And my dad is a cabinet maker. He was working at a doctor's house who Paul R. Williams had built his home, and he knew my dad liked architecture, so he was showing him an arch, and he gave him a book that was signed by Paula Williams' daughter, and my dad gave it to me. And I read the book front to back. I thought it was awesome. And then I was like, Dad, this is dope. I'm not doing this. This is terrible, right? Because he was drawing upside down for white clients because they didn't want to sit next to him. And he, like, to be an architect and to get the work, he had to be like excellent. And I think we're going to touch on this a little bit later about kind of the Black experience in almost any industry, but definitely in the design industry, the theme park industry, there's just kind of this idea as you step into any workplace that you have to be excellent. You have to be perfect. You can't make any mistakes or you're going to be highly judged. And so that's what I was reading. Basically my introduction to architecture was you have to be the best of the best of the best and perfect. So he had his engineering degree, he had a structural license, he had his architectural license. He was drawing upside down. He was working day and night to really get into the industry. And I shared that with my dad, and I was like, this is really cool, but this is a lot. He's dealing with racism. Maybe I'll just do something else where I don't have to deal with those things. And my dad was like, no, you can do it. I believe in you. You can be better than that. And I believed him. So that was that. Every choice I made after that, whether it was high school or I went to USC for School of Architecture, which is the same school that Paul R. Williams went to, it was all based on this idea that my dad and my mother, they supported me completely and they thought that I could do it. And so I believed it as well. And the theme park work, my friend graduated from USC as well, and he invited me to come over to work with him on a theme park, and I was like, what? Like a theme park? I wasn't even thinking about that because I was like, USC, I do contemporary architecture, I do modern architecture, I don't do that. And then I got in there, and it was amazing. It's all of it is the built environment, right? And we're creating experience. It's exactly what architecture is, and it really did change my life and change my perspective on how I see design.
I love that. I love that a lot. Erika, how about you?
My influences over my existence have been on a number of characters. Ones that stood out to me at a young age would be Aurora Monroe. She's Storm from X-Men. I grew up pretty much feeling very connected to my game systems, the cartoons on Saturday morning that I would watch, or the characters and books that really made a big difference to me, that I felt connected with, and wanted to stay connected to that. And then I suppose now in a more modern reality sense, I really respect and appreciate Russell Wilson. He's someone that I think inspires excellence, and throughout myself and my journey, sometimes I feel like what you've been saying, Matthew, a lot of, there's just so much pressure. And I wasn't a football person always, and this is very Seattle of me. But just feeling that energy, that why not me energy, and I just got to keep going and don't give up. And he was shorter than everyone and just made it to the Super Bowl. I always wanted to picture myself, in whatever Super Bowl that would be for me one day. So I became inspired by him, and combined with, I don't know, maybe if I really imagine myself controlling the weather and being a powerful force, I can summon a little bit of Storm's powers and just take that with me everywhere I go. So I've been influenced by characters and reality and fantasy.
I love that, and I understand that.
And I have in my somewhere collection a lunchbox with Storm on it.
Wow.
Totally relates.
And I love her hair too. That any hairstyle she's ever had is something I've always wanted.
How about coffee?
Well, I was a big, nerdy reader girl growing up. And so, my influences come from a lot of disparate places through the written word. And the great thing about books was if they didn't explicitly describe the person, you could make them whatever you wanted in your head. And so that's what I did with a lot of stuff. It was like, it just didn't occur to me that the default might be, more mainstream than what's happening in my head, because it was my movie. I was reading it. It didn't matter what the author necessarily had in their head if they didn't put it down on the page. So, it's a lot of and I think I brought that kind of mindset through college and through adulthood into today. Like, if people don't say explicitly, it's going to be whatever I think it is in my head. And I'll bring that to the table, and then they can tell me that's not really what we were thinking. And I can say, okay, well, what were you thinking? Because I didn't have anything really else to go on except, A, B, and C. And so after A, B, and C, I might have jumped to Q. And then fun fact, Erika, you mentioned Sam Raimi earlier. One of the films that I worked on when I did props and models was Sam Raimi's, the third one, the
Army of Darkness?
Army of Darkness. I have a t-shirt, a crew t-shirt somewhere in my house.
So cool. That's the best.
It was a lot of late nights on set while they were throwing fire around, and you could hear they shot it up in not Topanga Canyon, up by Acton, where the lion rescue is, and so you could also hear the lions in the background while we were shooting.
Whoa.
So we touched on this a little bit, the having to be excellent or having to be perfect. Like in my mind, theme entertainment is already like the best of like talent. And then you have to go another level. You have to be even better than that. Like that level of pressure, how do y'all handle that? Who would like to start?
I'll start. I think it's ingrained. I mean, because you get the talk, you know, and you're in kindergarten or first grade about how you have to do 4 times as much stuff to be perceived as half as good. And so it's like you have that like kind of mental expectation already that you have to push harder and harder and harder and harder just to be perceived as good or good enough or adequate. And, you know, if you do that often enough, then you get recognized as being better than good, but maybe not still excellent sometimes. I think there's still a lot of perceptions about, you know, what the face of design is. It's much better now, but there's still that, the face of design, if you ask anybody on the street, they're most likely going to pick, you know, the 3 top architects don't look like me, don't look like Matthew. So, you know, it's one of those things that's just, we're getting away from it, but it's going to take time.
It looked like Matthew wanted to say something.
Yeah, I think, you know, Coffee's right. I mean, a lot of it is ingrained. And I will also share that, you know, for any minority individuals on the call that feel this way, I think it's also fair to do some self-reflection and also be aware when it is yourself, right? You know, sometimes these things are self-imposed because of what we've experienced in our earlier years in our life. It doesn't necessarily mean that anyone is imposing this on us right now. They can be, and unconsciously, and sometimes there's scenarios where I'm telling myself I'm not good enough based off of how I grew up and you know, trauma or something that I experienced a long time ago. So it's always good to do self-reflection and understand where that voice is coming from. If it's an external one, then there's ways to handle that, especially today, right? You know, we live in a much different time, and there's different avenues to combat that. But when it's yourself, that just being able to acknowledge that, wait a minute, no one said this, right? The only person that is wondering whether I did a good job in this meeting, everyone else is, you know, supportive, is myself. I need to check myself and reduce the pressure that I'm putting on me. It's really, really important to do that, and to recognize that. And then to the leaders that are on the call, just a reminder to be honest with your employees of color. A lot of times I feel that there's possibly a desire to be so cognizant and cautious that sometimes I've seen employees of color leave the firm or not do as well as they could have because they didn't have the right information, right? They didn't know where they were failing. They didn't know why something wasn't working. And that honesty is really important so that they can achieve their goals, and then giving them the space to fail, right? Like the whole idea of being perfect is because we see others having that opportunity to fail and then pick themselves back up and gain that support and push back along. But a lot of times our employees of color fail, and it's a big problem, right? It's a big problem. It's almost like I kind of knew. I kind of knew you weren't going to excel or do very well. But you don't learn that way. You learn by failing and then picking those people up and supporting them and being honest with them, what's not working, and pushing them along and being supportive in that. So that's just my encouragement to from both sides of the coin.
Well, I would just, there was something you had said, Matthew, earlier about things that may have happened in the past or trauma or feedback. And I think back of, my early careers in stage management, that was a heavily male role for many, many years in the theater world. And slowly today it's like heavily female, and it's a rarity. But to have that training and work in that environment of a heavy male, the conversation, how you direct peers and stuff is very strong language. There is a very assertiveness of how you need to give direction to others. And then I flip into corporate, and corporate is not the same as the theater world. And so getting the feedback of being too aggressive or your tone. And so early on in my corporate career of having that feedback and then having to like, oh, I need to change my voice. And so it did take time as I've been in the company long enough and I've had some very great ally leaders to allow me to have my voice. I no longer have this filter of I have to say the right thing. My email has to say the right thing. How I give direction and feedback is not having to be filtered because I'm not always worried about, oh, this tone. And of course, that tone automatically triggers, oh, well, that's a Black woman's tone. A Black woman speaks a certain way and a Black woman responds a certain way. I'm like, no, I'm just giving feedback that all of my other peers give the same feedback in the same direction, but having to have that and work through that and go, no, I am myself every day. And I'm going to give feedback because, like you said, I want you to be successful, and I'm not going to start filtering out how my tone and what words I'm using. But that took some time based off of feedback that I received way early on in my career, and that is something to work through. Yeah.
I feel everything everyone has said and echo it. I relate really a lot to the allowing failure, because you're allowing learning, you're allowing an opportunity to survive and evolve to thriving from handling that. So, I feel like it's really important to just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And I believe also, bouncing off of that I'm going to be more likely in my head the person stopping myself and building the walls, even though there already are walls. I just don't need to add them myself on top of the walls that already are there. So you just have to keep going. And then I was a theater major myself. I did not pursue the acting side. I was better backstage, but one of the things that I did take away with that is there is a spotlight. And, I sometimes was always pressured to feel like I'm just one of a kind in a way that is a negative thing, or I don't see myself in certain roles. And I stopped thinking like that, because there is a spotlight on me, and that's, you got to shine or just keep or go for it. And so there's been a few times, I think, that when I'm exposed or feeling a little bit, you know, out there, I try to remind myself that, I have failed, I have kept going, I'm not giving up. This is what I want. I deserve this. I earn this. You have to kind of cheer yourself up, and that's kind of what's helped me with the pressure, and also finding, like-minded, passionate people to support you, like this group here too. So.
I love that. I'm glad you have those people. We're going to talk about those people in a second. I want to go back to something Coffee said about how the top architects don't look like us. Why is it important to be seen in this industry and at work?
Oh my gosh, I might have found architecture like so much earlier in my life if I had been exposed to it earlier in my life. I had no idea it was a thing. Like, I mean, it was like there was three choices essentially: nurse, teacher, homemaker, administrative something. You know, those are all great careers, but I would suck at all of them. So you know, it's I thankfully my family was supportive when I went to my undergrad and did film, because quite honestly, it was the coolest thing on the list, and I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. So that's how I got my bachelor's in film. I moved to LA because it was LA, Florida, or New York. And so it was kind of a dart throw. And also, California doesn't have giant bugs like Florida or hurricanes. So no offense, Florida, but I don't like giant bugs or hurricanes. So California won. And, you know, the rest is kind of my unorthodox path into architecture. But, you know, when I was in film, I didn't see a whole lot of me either. And, you know, then went back to grad school, and there weren't any of me in my particular class grad school. And, you know, it's one of those things that still blindsides me that, you know, I am the role model. And it's really alien to think of that as like I am the person that people coming up behind me are watching. And in some cases, some days that's really great, and some days it feels like an added pressure that I just, you know, look at it and go, and then hide, and then just go about my business and do my really good work. And then at some point resurface, and I'm okay with, okay, yeah, the idea of I'm trying to be a role model, it's okay again. But sometimes it's overwhelming, and sometimes it's scary, and most of the time it's great.
Like, we're all nodding because I think we all fully relate to you of not having someone look like you early in our careers, and being, as I call it, the only one in the room, or the only one part of the department. And so, you know, fast forward today, and there's more that look like you, and there's more that are coming up, and there is a heavy mantle to have to bear of being that first, because you may have to do certain struggles and open doors, or establish, you know, this is a norm to be okay. And then that next group of remembering to support the next generation that's coming up, and making yourself available when you're tired. You're like, I just want to go home. I did my job. I'm good. Can I just go home? And it's like, no, taking that time to have those conversations with that next generation, to create an environment, create your kind of your work tribe of who they can rely on, and being there for each other. And so we're creating these in the moment. So, you know, I am hopeful that, you know, the next group of folks, you know, will continue on this tribe of supporting and being there, where I think many of us did not have that, but we know how important it is. So we're going to take that extra energy to support it and cultivate it and build it.
I'm looking at Erika. I wasn't sure if she wanted to say something.
Yeah, in terms of support, I can tell you right now that growing up, did not have any support from my family playing video games and wanting to do that as a career. And now I am so happy that the times have changed and people can, you know, from a very young age, be very talented at video games. And, you know, they're all artists or professional players. It's an ecosystem, but it's also a culture that I think is embraced now. So that's wonderful. And for myself, I've just, you know, kept playing and over the years. And, you know, for, you know, bouncing off that, when you find yourself at the table and you might be the only one there, it's my role to say the kind of comments. Like there was a game I played the other day, and you know, it was Layers of Fear. It was a second remake of the first one, came out last year, but there was a protagonist that was a African American woman, and they got the right hand color. You know, sometimes it's just, it's subtle things where, you know, you see your hands as like the VR, you know, your color skin is present, you know. And so that when I'm in the room and I'm giving notes, I always make sure that there are hands that represent me or the character. People don't think about those kinds of things, and if you're in that spotlight, you have to make those kinds of notes. But back in the day, that the support wasn't really empowering for someone that had as much passion as I did always have to do where I am now. And you just never give up. And like I said, you find like-minded folks in the space, and you stay connected to them and go on your journey.
Matthew, why is it important to be seen?
For everything they all just said. It's really important to be seen. I'm not sure if I have anything additional that I want to bring up, but just in general, you want to be able to represent the communities you serve as well. If you just think about a conglomerate or a firm or a group of people who have a vision, and that vision creates entertainment or experiences for a bunch of different people. You want to be able to represent that in your firm and in your group. There's been plenty of times that I've been on projects and I've been able to provide some insight that the project team wouldn't have had if I wasn't there, right? And that insight really helped peer and peek into the culture and the community that we were working with. You know, I remember on one project we were, you know, this was in South Central LA, and we were working on it, and I start to talk about the porch, you know, the idea of the porch and community in Black culture, and how, or the stoop, right? Sitting on the steps or sitting on the front porch, and what that means to us, and what that could potentially mean as an architectural typology or architectural move, right? How do we expand the porch? Like if we're talking about creating community engagement, maybe that's an opportunity. Whether we do it or not is neither here nor there. We're throwing ideas out onto the drawing board, but being able to share that with them, like, oh wow, that's so cool. I didn't think of that, you know? So I think that representation is also important, but also about what it brings in terms of insight.
I love that. We talked a little bit about having the space to fail and that being an opportunity to learn. And sometimes we don't always get that. How do y'all handle your mistakes?
Well, one of the things that has really helped me is reaching out prematurely to my team members, to my supervisors, to principals, to just people that I'm operating with. And you'll find that this works in anything, in any human interaction or relationship, this will work. Go up to a friend, your partner, your team member, and say, you just had a meeting or something like that, and right after, hey, could I chat with you right after the meeting? Hey, I'm really excited working with you on this project, and I'm really excited about the collaboration on design. And I just want to share with you that I'm completely open for feedback. Like if you ever if we're like in the meeting and I maybe get something wrong, or you think you can help me with something, please offer it, right? And I'm not going to be against it. Now, whether I feel I need to take it or not, or whatever I do with it is that, but I want to create an open dialogue, right? That you can just share with me anything that you would like to share with me, if it's you're pertaining to something that I can change or redirect me. And you could do that even in your own personal relationships, and you'll see how people's eyes will light up. They'll be like, wow, that's because it's also being vulnerable, and vulnerability is what creates bonds and stronger relationships. It shows a certain level of emotional intelligence and self-awareness that people are always really appreciative of that. And it has taken me it's taken me very far, because the conversations that would have taken 4 months to hear about because I made a mistake, and it's going to take them 4 months to tell me about it because they're not sure about it. Now it's been 4 months of an issue, right? An underlying issue between me and that person, that person's relationship, that could have been fixed like much earlier, and it creates strains on the relationship. So I think that's really helpful. It's almost kind of like a premature thing to do, so that you create a funnel for when we make those mistakes, and then just kind of like a quick rebound. The faster you can rebound from a mistake, the better.
I think it's also, you know, being able to trust your team is really important. Saying that, I don't know what I don't know about your capabilities. You don't know what you don't know about my capabilities. This is why we are working together as a team. If you have a question, ask it. If you think I screwed up, tell me. Nothing happens without communication. And by opening those channels of communication, and being open, like truly open to those channels of communication and listening, then you can avoid a lot of stuff, as Matthew said, just kind of festering underneath, because somebody's afraid to talk to you about something, or they're afraid that they screwed up and they're afraid to say something, or they don't know how to do something, or you don't know how to do something. I regularly tell my teams that, you are the expert in blah. I am not. I'm really good at coordinating stuff, but waterproofing details, while I love them, like this new area of the United States, I have not done waterproofing details before. So you are the expert in, Minnesota or Wisconsin, because I live in the desert. So I might be on autopilot and put the vapor barrier on the wrong side. But, I'm counting on you, my team, to help me avoid those mistakes, because you have your knowledge and I have my knowledge. Together we shove it all in a bucket and we have a stronger project.
I have no problem sharing when I make a mistake. And I have created that environment with my team. And I tell them all the time, I'm like, as Coffee says, I don't know everything. You guys are more on on the boots on the ground, and you know more of the things. And so I will do my best to come to you and ask questions. I said, but sometimes I am going to make the wrong decision, and I'm going to come back to you guys and tell you, yeah, so I said this and this is wrong. And my team will roll their eyes and will laugh. I'm like, okay, so help me how to fix this. But I think the faster and quicker you can admit that there's been a mistake and that you need help, the more you will get the help for people to come. If you dodge or you blame or you point fingers or you make excuses, people are going to like roll their eyes and go, no, I'm going to let you squirm. I'm going to let you figure it out yourself. But the more you can invest in bringing your teammates, bringing your team along on the journey and allow them to give you feedback and give, direction and take the direction, because you don't know everything, the better your project is going to be, the smoother it's going to be, and you actually would make less mistakes and have to do a lot of course correction. So I have learned that the hard way of like, oh no, I've got insert title, I know everything, and that has failed me many a times. And so I have learned that no, I don't know. And sometimes the higher the title, the less you know. And so you do have to really rely on your partners, communicating with your team, letting your partners know, like, hey, this is going down the wrong path, and I need your help to correct it. But to try to fly solo, I don't think that that's going to be very beneficial for you at all. Even if you're an individual contributor, what your decisions are going to impact somebody. So I think you should always see all of your projects and things you're doing as a team project. Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a village to when you're a producer, you're working with a large group of people, and in essence everyone's collective doesn't want to fail. Don't make it a big fat F, but a good old classic debrief in a serious, constructive approached way. Open it up for other people's feedback, and then be okay to give feedback to others or your partners. And you got to put your ego aside. I don't like failing, and I'm very competitive when I play games, and I wish I didn't throw that wave bird way back then. I'm just kidding. But when I'm competitive, but when I lose, I know exactly what I could have done instead. Watch the tapes, or you learn from your opponent in a gameplay, or what the goals were. You study that and you compare that, and then you try again. That's the magic of failing, is that it's supposed to be, when you debrief, you learn. And also one thing that you should also do is, when you do fail, you got to remind yourself that you actually tried to do something here. So still reward yourself for going for it. Because I think sometimes when projects don't hit their numbers, or the film didn't end up how you wanted it to, after the editing and everything, it is something to value of everyone's contributions, and just care about it, and leave the ego at the door, and try to do better next time, and have takeaways and contributions for what the next goal is going to be. Always keep going.
Keep going. Have support. I love that. I believe we are coming up to the Q&A. So if you have a question for the panel, please put it in the chat. I have it up, so I'm going to read the first one that I see. From Lynn: what do you want the next generation to do differently, if anything?
Um, I think a lot of it kind of depends on what you mean the next generation. We're talking the next generation of minority designers. You're talking the next generation of uh, non-minority, designers and managers and how they should be interacting. But I think collectively, everything that we've been talking about is things that we could be implementing now and the future. And one thing I will say is that we live in a time where there's a lot more awareness about these issues, and so it's a beautiful thing to see um, our next generation of designers knocking on the door and demanding change and stating what's an issue and what's a problem for them and standing up for what they believe in. But I also want to say that it's like there's two sides to that coin. On one side, we can protest, we can picket sign, and we can demand for change. But on the other side, there also has to be a growth mindset and an idea that nothing's going to stop me from reaching my goals. Like nothing, right? When I start to think about how difficult it was for me to become an architect, I joined National Organization Minority Architects. I talked about the things that needed to be changed, but at the same time, whenever the going got tough, I thought about Paul R. Williams and what he went through, and I thought about some of my mentors. They got their license in a time where Black people were getting hosed down and bitten by dogs and beaten out in the street. Like they got an architectural license in that time. That's not necessarily happening to me right now. So it's always it kind of puts things into perspective, and it's like, okay, what hits am I going to take and protect the next generation from? So hopefully that next generation is also thinking that way as well. Okay, well, Matthew went through this and I'm going through this, and I'm going to protect the next person that comes behind me, and we're going to continue to climb this mountain together, right? So we're doing that and being great while demanding things to be changed and while we're protesting and all of the things that are important about changing policy. But we also have to achieve our goals no matter what.
I saw coffee come off mute. What are you thinking?
I was just going to say, it's like, don't be scared to try it. I mean, that's the biggest thing that I could say to people is that, if it's of interest to you, investigate it, try it. We have YouTube, we have, the Google, we've got like all these various resources that, I did not have as a younger person. I did not have as a child. So, the world is so big, and the internet makes it smaller and more approachable, also more rabbit holey. But, find stuff. Like if you came across somebody's TED Talk and they mentioned some career that you've never heard of before, in themed entertainment or otherwise, and it sparks something in your brain, investigate. Like, make some phone calls. Like, there are contacts out there, and most of the really nerdy people in these positions are happy to talk to people who are interested in doing the same thing. We actually really like it when people are like, you do themed architecture? That's so cool. Tell me more. Yeah, I will tell you more. I want you to love it as much as I do. And if you don't, then I'm going to point you towards the themed entertainment engineers, and maybe you'll love that as much as they love that. But it's try everything, find out what you love.
Would Erika or Veronica like to answer the question, or should we move on?
I would like to appreciate this next generation. I'm noticing a lot more value of self-love and self-value and wellness that I'm learning from, folks that I get to work with that, are earlier in their careers on, ways to handle themselves, and, ways that I think we can all learn from each other. I'm just very excited. And I also think that, um, keep evolving the way you consume content. So I don't know if I'm saying do anything differently. I'm excited to shape that out with you wherever it goes, and just value a lot more voices are being heard. I think gaming is evolving to more community, and people have things to say and engage with. I think it's really exciting, and I'm excited to learn more about that. So keep doing what you're doing in those arenas.
I actually have something for the hiring of the next generation, a plea to you all, is that the next generation is not going to look like you, going to have the same background as you, not going to have the same beliefs as you. They are multicultural, diversity in multiple things, from whether it's mental health or what they look like or their skin tone or what they believe. And so I just am a big fan of hiring somebody that doesn't look like you, doesn't say the same things you say, because I think that they're going to bring something so special to your table and have you think about something different that will be enhancing to the consumer you are hoping to attract. So go the opposite of you. So I would encourage that, because there's just so much fresh ideas and things that we don't think about because we do it every day, that next generation is going to have that brilliant idea to push your product or your business in a new way that's going to make everybody successful. So that's my plea for the new generation.
Love that growth mindset. So Erika kind of touched on this. When you look ahead to the next chapter of themed entertainment, what are you excited about? What are you excited about?
The synergies. Oh my gosh, there's so much synergy coming. Like, I mean, from games to rides to experiences to theaters, and like, I mean, there's just so much tech, and like how it's going to be used. There's probably so much stuff that is not even a concept yet because we're just not there yet. Like, and that's the part that excites me. What kind of new entertainment experiences are we going to develop that aren't even a glimmer yet? You know, where is that going to be? How is that going to be? How many disciplines are going to be involved in that? That's really exciting. You know, what is the future of entertainment spaces and places and experiences? Like, there's AR, VR. You know, I went to the Sphere in Las Vegas last night for a thing, and it is mind-blowing because it is just so many pixels all around you. It is, you know, IMAX on steroids on some sort of other illicit drug, and it's pretty dang amazing. And that's just kind of the tip of the iceberg of what entertainment spaces and experiences can be.
Veronica,
Well,
you look so happy.
I was just gonna say, Sarah, for the record, you don't have to come to me. Coffee said it.
I
Okay.
know, I love their answer. That's why I'm smiling. I'm like, it is truly amazing what the next tech is looking for our themed entertainment. It's really exciting.
I suppose I'll bookend with the themed entertainment in terms of games POV, that people are able to insert themselves more than ever into the world, not just through the main character as you come to know it, but you get to put yourself in that. And so I also think that there's a lot more stories to tell, like you were saying, that please chime in always and keep that running so that we can, you know, hear different POVs, different perspectives, because that's what interactive entertainment really does that's special. You're not reading a book or just really watching the movie, because that doesn't give you the player agency. It's you get to go through that experience yourself. So experience what you want to experience, and all the IP and all the themes are your own original stories. It's kind of a sandbox. So go out there and just keep making content and saying what you believe, and sharing it with others and being open. And that's really fun.
I love that. The future is going to be super exciting. We're all excited about the future. This question is specifically for coffee. How did you choose between your filmmaker self and your architecture self?
I didn't, because it's really, for me, it's about the storytelling, you know, and buildings tell stories just as much as films tell stories. So it's puzzle pieces and storytelling, and it's just a different lens to do that. You know, I write short stories and stuff on the side, so like, you know, so I have my, you know, full-on long-form narrative over there, but you know, buildings in some way, I mean, they're sets for life, right? So film sets are buildings, but just parts of them, and buildings are the sets for so many different people's films every day. It's the same thing for me. I just don't get to see everybody's films, which is in some cases kind of disappointing, because I really like people watching, and I kind of want to know more about what happens in the buildings and the people that occupy them.
Thank you. Thank you for that. This question, fun question. What is your all-time favorite attraction and why?
My favorite attractions are ones that combine a bit of thrill and storytelling. I don't just like thrill, and I don't just like riding around and just like looking at some robots and it's like I want to be immersed in the hero's journey. For example, the Cars ride. You roll around, you're like, oh, look at California, and you see the cars. There's a little bit of scary, womp womp, and then you're like, yo, let's hook up the car, and then you got someone next to you, and then you race off like Fast and Furious. That's an excellent ride. An excellent ride is, you know, you're on the Jurassic Park ride. I grew up on Jurassic Park. I love Jurassic Park. Looking at, you know, some of the animatronics squirting some water on you, you're like, whatever. Then you get up there, and then that water curtain opens up, and the T-Rex comes out. Like, excellent. Mwah. These are some rides that I really, really enjoy. I saw that question and I was excited to answer it. So I'm done now.
So my daughter and I's favorite ride in Walt Disney World is Tower of Terror, and in Disneyland is Guardians of the Galaxy. And talk about a story, and you are fully immersed of what's happening, and you gotta go here, and especially the Guardians of the Galaxy. And if you've never been on it, you know, it takes you somewhere and you don't realize it's taking you really high, and then there's this drop. And you feel you know, everything comes in your mouth, and you're like, oh, this is crazy. And then they do it like 3 or 4 more times. You're like, wait, are we done? No, we're not done. We are going to drop you again. So I like the immersiveness and also the unexpectedness, as you were saying. I love that. Yeah, and my daughter loves it too. So
I just favorite is, I like going on the tour at Universal, where they put you in the cart, or the, you know, the cart truck thing, and you go through all the sets, and then a long time ago, Jaws would pop out of the water, and that's just a memory that will forever be effective for me. And then I also want to shout out to Sleep No More in New York City. It was just so powerful, and every time I go, it's just a different experience. And I feel like I'm in it, fully immersed. Like, you can go in character, or you can kind of go and just be observative. It's so tingly. It's so exciting.
I don't think I have a favorite. I have favorite parts of lots of different things. So for like the queue line, Indiana Jones is probably one of my favorite queue lines because it's entertaining as a queue line. Like, I mean, there's puzzles and stuff to look at, and surprise moments, and it makes it hour and a half wait go by pretty quick if you're like, trying to decipher stuff and what have you. The ride is also really cool. But I was really excited because I got to ride the Hagrid ride in Florida. And oh my gosh, that ride is so fun. So fun. Because it's a different kind of coaster. It does things that you do not expect a coaster to do. And those moments of like surprise in the story are really fun. So those are currently like my two favorite-ish. But there's also like other things that aren't at theme parks, like Meow Wolf, Omega Mart here in Las Vegas. That's pretty cool. It's like a super psychedelic, weird place to be, and it's never the same twice. And you can do the interactive stuff or not and still have a great time. So, yeah, all kinds of stuff. And my list of favorites is piecemeal and varied.
Excellent. We have one more question, and then that'll be it for tonight. How do you balance the drive, whether internal or external, to be perfect, to get recognized for your work, whether internal or external, and the need to just keep going with burnout? It's a big question. Take your time.
I was in the USC Ross program recently, and we had a professor share a quote and said, minimize what you do. What is it? Do the minimum, but maximize it. And I thought it sounds kind of negative at first, but it's really profound and powerful when you think about it. Like, you could do all the things, right? You could just go into your firm, join all the organizations, join all the clubs, do all the extracurricular things. But, you could just be just doing things to do them. And I think that it's really important to focus on what you're passionate about. Find those few things that you're passionate about and that you're good at, and maximize it, right? Like, I'm a part of AIA and I'm a part of NOMA. Those are two architectural organizations, and I could try to do a bunch of stuff in AIA as well, but I focus in on NOMA because I'm passionate about community and creating space for that next generation. So I'm maximizing that thing, right? As opposed to just doing all the stuff that I could possibly do. So I think that's important, and it's kind of an interesting way of looking at it.
I think just really quick on the burnout, it's so important to have an outlet. And whether that is at home, even at work, have a couple of buddies where when it gets really crazy, you can go in their office and go like, and be able to find ways to go home and decompress. If you are constantly on at work and then you have to take work home, and then you're doing work all night, and then you go back and you never get to decompress and focus on other things, you will burn out a lot faster. And, having that ability to like turn it off and just decompose, whether that's jumping on a ride or going to read a book or being with family, it's super important because you can and will burn out. That is just a fact if you aren't able to have that balance and figuring out who your buddies are that can call you out on it if they see you on the edge and can kind of pull you away. So, yeah.
I'm still a work in progress for finding the ultimate balance. It's my favorite quest to strive to achieve. I am a big planner. So I'll do for things that I can control. I come from sort of like thinking about like things in like a slate, and like you can kind of prioritize because there's only a certain amount of time during the day. But one thing I realized earlier in my career, and I guess it's important to, go off and go beast mode, but I tried to do everything for everyone all the time, perfect, network, do it all, blah, blah, blah. And it's sick, but it's awesome. But one thing I realized a little bit later is that I did have burnout. I wasn't playing games and I wasn't really having fun. And I'm like, what I do is so cool and awesome. And then also there's a missing piece of the slate that I was pressuring myself to do, which didn't involve my agenda or my interests or my personal network. I found myself kind of sometimes networking for, other initiatives than it were my own. And so, yeah, you got to just do that self-love and factor that into whatever plan you're trying to execute, whether it be internal or external, for yourself or recognition, or like, and part of that slate is like, well, what is your definition of perfect? I mean, perfect is not really the best word. I'm not a fan of it, but trying to achieve what for you is that top goal, or it's your North Star, and just put it on your agenda and just work towards that.
I wanted to say it's okay if you don't know what that North Star is yet. Some of us are late bloomers, and some of us have multiple North Stars. So, and sometimes they switch. So and that's not a bad thing. And I had another point, but I don't remember what it is. So somebody else talk while I think about what that was.
There's quests and side quests. It's all just an adventure. Don't forget, it's an adventure. There's lots of NPCs and adventures and things to build and play with and enjoy and achieve.
Y'all could be coaches, like, seriously.
Vacation.
Join me.
That's what it was. Take your damn vacation.
Go on those cruise ships.
Like there is, kind of this mentality, and, we love what we do, and, and it is fun and it is rewarding, but, you need to recharge. So take your vacation. It doesn't have to be like, 2 weeks at a stretch wherever. I mean, you could take a day and, go to the park, or, spend it watching Netflix that nobody else in your family wants to watch but you, or, go to, sit in the car someplace on a long drive, whatever, like, small or big pieces that recharge your battery, do those, but use your vacation time, because, like, you earned it.
What a note to end on. Take your vacation. I will live that. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming tonight. This was super fun to do, and it was lovely to meet all these people. I could talk to y'all forever. Like, you are such interesting people. Thank you for coming. And thank you for staying a little over. I know we didn't quite end right on the hour, but I appreciate y'all for staying. So go ahead, have a good rest of your evening, afternoon, whatever time it is for you, and I'll see you later.